Lulu, welcome back.
Thank you.
How was your anxiety this past week?
It's been okay. Yeah, I had a presentation and it was kind of up there, but other than that, it was okay.
That's good. So aside from the presentation, that was like the most anxiety-provoking event that you experienced?
Yeah.
Good. Very nice. Well, just to go ahead and get today started, because we do have a bit of material to cover, and I want to make sure we have enough time, so that way when you have questions, I can answer them.
Okay.
But just to set the agenda for the day, I'm going to give you the SAS key again, which is that little tool that I'm going to use to track your anxiety throughout our sessions together.
Okay.
Then we're going to just review and go over the homework, answer any questions that maybe you had. And then we're also going to talk about cognitive restructuring today and the different components of it, kind of this umbrella term, and what makes up cognitive restructuring.
Yeah, okay. I was wondering about that too.
Right, because it touched upon it like in the readings, but definitely in need of some further explanation. Great.
Yeah.
So before we begin, do you have any questions about that, or?
No, I don't have any questions.
Great. So then let's talk about the homework real quick.
Okay.
So you had that 3 components of anxiety worksheet. Were you able to fill that out?
Yeah.
Oh, great. Great, and it's about the presentation that you had to give.
Yeah.
All right, so walk me through some of these thoughts that you were having.
So the thoughts that I had was they must think, I don't know what I'm talking about. I pause too much, and they can tell I'm anxious. Right.
Which are all thoughts that are just, gosh, it just makes your anxiety even worse when you're having to give this presentation.
Oh, yeah.
So this is wonderful that you were actually able, though, to take the time and write all of this down. Because, well, during our session, we're going to be building on top of this. So you've given us a good starting point.
Okay, yeah.
Great. And so then the readings that you did, what questions or what stood out to you from those?
So I guess there were, I think, thinking errors or something like that. That really stood out to me because I didn't realize that I could categorize my thoughts.
Right.
So that kind of stood out to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing what we can do when we have a name, when a label to put on something. And so instead of just thinking you have these thoughts and there's nothing to them, it's actually, these are thinking errors, and they have names and they have purposes. So super interesting. Well, great. Well, I'm glad that you were able to find the time to do the homework, because of course, during our time together, you're going to get out of this what you put into it. Right. And you're already putting in so much work and effort. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
So when we talk about cognitive restructuring, Lulu, we have to start with the cognitive model.
Okay.
And so usually when we think about this, we imagine that situations directly influence and impact our feelings and behaviors. It's the situation that causes us anxiety or causes us to feel discomfort. But what the cognitive model suggests is that it's actually a 3-part process. So we have the situation, and then that situation influences our thoughts and our beliefs. And then it's our thoughts and our beliefs that influence our behaviors and our feelings. So it's not so much the situation directly, but it goes through this process. And so today, what we're going to be focusing on are those thoughts and those beliefs. How can we challenge them? How can we test their validity, so to speak, okay? So in the readings, do you remember the stories of Jerry, and I think his name was Rick or Rich?
Yeah, Rick, I think so, yeah. Briefly remember, it was something about talking to someone, a woman or something.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, so Jerry and Rick were these 2 guys. They just moved to this new town. And so they had decided, so Jerry and Rick were going to walk up to this woman who lives in their apartment complex and just engage in some subtle conversation just to get to know somebody who lived there. So Jerry approaches the situation, and he's talking to her, and he starts getting really anxious, and he's thinking to himself, oh God, she probably thinks I'm so boring. She probably thinks I'm weird. This is so uncomfortable. We should end this conversation. We should just stop having this talk. And so then he does. And he leaves the situation feeling really defeated. And he's like, gosh, I took this risk, and I tried talking to her, and it just blew up in my face. Whereas Rick enters into the same exact situation, and he's talking to her, and they're just having a nice time, and he's thinking to himself, this is going well. She's talking to me. She obviously looks busy. She's at her mailbox, so maybe I'll just ask her if she wants to hang out later, and we can get more into things. And so he does, and she agrees, and then he leaves the situation feeling really empowered. He's like, I took this risk and it really paid off. And so what we see there is the situation was the exact same.
Yeah.
Same elements, the same person, but how they approached that situation and their thoughts and rationale behind why they did what they did completely altered the course of action and really impacted how they, how it ended, how it wound up.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's that cognitive model, that situation influences the thoughts, and then our thoughts influence our behaviors.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because
Right.
a lot of times you'll just think like, oh, me doing this makes me feel anxious. But it's actually like what I'm thinking.
Exactly, which ties into this concept of automatic thoughts. And so automatic thoughts are usually these like negative beliefs that we have about ourselves, others, and usually these thoughts are the ones that just pop into our head. They're so almost natural that we don't even recognize that they're there, which is exactly what you were talking about just then. Oftentimes you don't think about the thoughts that trigger the behaviors.
Right.
And so when we talk about automatic thoughts, I don't want to mislead you to thinking that we are trying to get rid of them or suppress them, because that's not our goal. Our goal is ultimately to be able to recognize and identify them and then challenge them and test, again, that validity. Is this thought true? What evidence do I have? And so do you remember in the readings when it was talking about the rose-colored glasses?
Yeah, yeah. So, like rose-colored glasses is when you view the situation like more positively and stuff like that. Yeah.
Absolutely, right. It's like everything has this pink hue to it. It's really positive. And then do you remember what the other types of glasses were? So you had the rose-colored glasses, and then what was the other one?
Amber-colored glasses. Yeah.
Right. And so what was your understanding of the amber-colored glasses?
I guess that one is kind of like you view it in a more negative way, kind of.
Right. Kind of like when you're looking at a stoplight and you have green, the yellow, and the red. The yellow is like a warning sign. It's like, hey, it's about to get red, so how about we start slowing down?
Right.
The amber-colored glasses really work the same way. It's like you're constantly viewing things as potentially dangerous or harmful or like anxiety-provoking.
Right.
And so I actually have a worksheet that I want us to kind of look through just to make sure we have a good understanding of what exactly are these amber-colored glasses and how they impact us. So looking at this worksheet, we have an example here at the top. So we have our situations, our thoughts, our emotions, the physiological responses, and then our behaviors, going back to that triangle that we had talked about a couple sessions ago.
Yeah.
So the first, so this here is with the amber colored glasses. So you pass someone you know fairly well in the store, and they don't say hello. So the person with the amber colored glasses immediately start thinking, oh God, they don't like me. Oh, they don't want to talk to me, like it's something that I've done. And then, so their internal response to that, their emotions as a result, their heart rates and their muscle tension is all increases, their anxiety is increasing.
Yeah.
And then, as a result, to the end of that situation, the person just moves on quickly to avoid the awkward situation. They avoid seeing them the next time because now they've got this thought in their head that, oh, they don't like me, they're mad at me, I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
So now when we look at that same exact situation and we see the person without the amber colored glasses, they've taken them off, we can see things how they are. What's the course of action for them?
So for this one, yeah, so they must have not seen me, they must be thinking about something else, and then there was no change, so I guess they don't really feel anxious or anything. And so then they call their name and say hello first, and ask how they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like kind of not taking it to where this person doesn't like me or whatever, but maybe I initiate the conversation.
Absolutely. This one definitely seemed to personalize what could have just been an honest misunderstanding or maybe the person didn't see them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's exactly right. So you see it kind of with this warning, dangerous view, and then just for what it is. So then going through this one, and I'll go ahead and let you fill this one out if you'd like.
Okay.
Oh, you have a pen.
Yeah, it's okay.
So looking at the situation, so you're waiting for someone at a movie theater and they're late. So if you had on the amber colored glasses, what would your thoughts be?
So I guess like they stood me up.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then, as a result of that thought, what sort of emotions or internal responses would you be having?
I think I would feel anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'd experience like racing heart
Mm-hmm.
and probably short breaths.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, if you thought you'd been stood up by somebody who you expected was a friend, that's a totally expected response.
Yeah. And I guess I would probably leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So now approaching that same exact situation, but if you've taken off the amber colored glasses, what sort of thoughts would you be having?
She might be stuck in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there would be a change.
Mm-hmm.
Like I might need, I guess, more calm.
Yeah, kind of stay in that neutral.
Yeah,
neutral
that's the
state.
word. Yeah. And behaviors, I'd probably wait. Like they'll just continue waiting.
Yeah.
I guess I might get us popcorn and stuff so we can just walk right into them.
Sure.
Wait and like buy snacks. Yeah.
Great. So then just looking at that, isn't it just mind-blowing how something as small as a thought can just completely alter the course of an event?
Oh yeah, that does.
Mm-hmm.
That does make a difference. I never thought of it like that.
Right. And so that's what we mean by these automatic thoughts. They just pop into our head and then they start triggering that whole spiral of anxiety, and then we're sweating, and then we're upset, and then we leave, and it just keeps spiraling.
Yeah.
And so a huge part of our cognitive restructuring is being able to identify those automatic thoughts and then start to challenge them a little bit and asking ourselves, okay, let's look at the facts for a second.
Yeah. And so I guess, in a sense, the cognitive restructuring is like taking off the amber colored.
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's what we're working towards.
Okay.
Now, of course, I don't expect you to be able to do this immediately now that we've talked about it. It's something we'll have to practice at doing, but that's exactly the goal, is to take those glasses off.
Okay.
Right. And so then, when we're identifying these automatic thoughts, it ties into those thinking errors that you read about in the book. And so thinking errors ultimately are ways that we think about a situation that might not necessarily accurately portray the situation.
Okay.
So it's kind of like that hue. We're putting an amber hue on it through these thinking errors. And we're seeing it through those clouded eyes, so to speak. And so ultimately, when we're identifying thinking errors, our goal is to gain a new perspective. We're just trying to non-judgmentally see a different point of view. And so I have this sheet here for you, and you can keep this as well. And it's a list of all the different thinking errors. And so I want you to read through that, and just as you're reading through, like, which ones stand out to you? Which ones really hit home?
I would say that disqualifying a positive would be something. And probably like mind reading too.
Okay.
Yeah. Those two stand out to me.
Okay.
Maybe fortune telling
Right.
as well.
So then with those thinking errors, looking back now at the monitoring the three components worksheet that you did, where do you think these fit in?
So I guess the first one, they might think I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe mind reading?
Okay. Yeah, because you're like assuming the thoughts of the other person.
Yeah. So I pause too much. Yes.
3? Sure. So tell me your reasoning behind choosing that one.
So I felt like I paused too much, and so I guess it says here like these thoughts may be true or value statements that are neither true or false. And then that dwelling on them makes you feel more anxious and may interfere with your performance.
Sure. Because if you're dwelling on this thought of, gosh, I'm pausing way too much, it's almost just like making it more present in your mind. And so then it's like, oh, okay, well, now I am going to pause because that's all I can think about. Sure. And when we're going through the thinking errors, Lulu, you know, multiple errors can be assigned to one thought. You know, it's not just all or nothing like the first one suggests. You can have multiples. And so like for that one, the I paused too much, I also was thinking maybe like a should statement. Because what you're saying here is I shouldn't pause almost, like when you're speaking.
Yeah, I can see that.
You could also maybe even argue like a mental filter. So you're focusing on the pausing, but at the same time you maybe gave a really great presentation with a lot of valuable information.
Yeah, totally.
And then this last one, so they can tell I'm anxious. Where do you think that one fits in?
I guess mind reading too, like I feel like I know what they're thinking.
Sure, absolutely.
Maybe confusing feelings with facts.
So yeah, tell me more about that.
I guess like I feel anxious, and I feel like it's something that they can notice, but that doesn't mean that that's true.
Sure. Absolutely. Right. And so when we're looking through these questions, it's just trying to figure out different perspectives. So like seeing the situation from somebody else's point of view or from the point of view of you that isn't anxious. So that's great. That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So taking all that we've learned so far, so we have the cognitive model, the automatic thoughts, and now we have the thinking errors. I'm going to pose to you a situation that makes me really anxious, and I kind of want us to go through and just deconstruct it a bit and figure out, so what are the automatic thoughts here? What are the thinking errors and whatnot?
Okay.
So the situation for me is that I want to go to my boss and ask them for some vacation time.
Okay.
Okay? So going to my boss, asking them for vacation time, it's making me kind of anxious because it's my boss, right? So what sorts of automatic thoughts might be going through my head at this moment?
He might say no.
Okay. So he'll say no.
He'll think I'm lazy.
Ooh, yeah, absolutely. Okay.
I guess he might yell at me.
So like by asking time off, you might get mad and
Yeah, he'll get mad at me.
Okay. Yeah. And are there any other automatic thoughts you think I could be having at this time?
No, that's all that I can think of, yeah.
Great. Okay. So yeah, I'm walking into this situation thinking he's going to get mad at me. He's going to think these terrible things like I'm lazy, or he might just flat out reject me. So my anxiety is like through the roof right now.
Yeah.
So what sorts of thinking errors can you identify from that sheet that I gave you?
He'll say no. So he'll say no fortune telling. He'll think I'm lazy. Could that be mind reading?
Sure. Yeah, because I'm trying to assume his thoughts about, absolutely.
He'll get mad at me. Fortune telling also.
Okay, again, trying to predict the future.
Yeah.
Okay, and are there any other ones that you think we can like double up here, or any other ones you think might represent what's going on?
I guess maybe catastrophizing.
Okay, for which one?
Like that he'll think I'm lazy.
Okay, kind of going to that worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also maybe for the first one, all or nothing. Like he might say no now, but he might say because of this time, so maybe yes for like next week
Sure.
or like another week or something.
Because it's like I immediately go to that nothing. It's like, okay, so I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we're definitely seeing some themes here. So we've got like the fortune telling, of course, trying to predict the outcome. And then that's great. That's really, I can tell that you spend some time looking at your homework.
Yeah. It's making more sense now as we're doing it.
Right. I find like, at least for myself and I learn, it really helps to put things in practice, like actually getting into it, doing it. And so hopefully by us doing it, you'll feel like you have a better handle on the information and content.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've identified the automatic thoughts. We've gone through and identified the thinking errors. So the next step to this is to challenge these thoughts, trying to figure out, okay, where's my proof? Are these even valid thoughts? And are they ultimately going to help me get to my goal of getting my time off?
Yeah.
And so I have another sheet for you.
Okay.
And this sheet contains just like a couple of examples of disputing questions that we can ask ourselves in these moments to challenge our automatic thoughts.
Okay.
So look through there. Okay, and so pretending that, let's say, maybe you're my coworker, and I'm going to you, I'm like, oh, Lulu, I'm really nervous, I don't know what to do. How, as my coworker, what disputing questions would you give me to challenge my thoughts?
So, are we doing each one?
Yeah, so we can start with the he'll say no.
He'll say no. Do I know for certain that he'll say no? Or do you know for certain that he'll say no?
You know, I don't. I know I've asked him for time off before, and he's actually said yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And so then what do we do next?
So now we can move on to the next item. So he'll think I'm lazy.
He'll think I'm lazy. So does asking for time off equal being lazy?
I don't think so. Especially like because I'm trying to get time off so I could go to my family reunion. So I don't feel like that makes me a lazy person. Okay. Okay. And then for that final one, well, gosh, Lulu, I don't know, he'll get mad at me.
I guess what's the realistic likelihood that he'll get mad at you?
Well, like I said, so I've asked him for time off before, and he hasn't gotten mad at me since. And I don't know, he doesn't really seem like a very angry person. So I guess the likelihood that he would get mad at me is probably pretty slim.
Okay.
And so when we're looking back now, and so here are my original automatic thoughts, pretty negative in nature, pretty anxiety provoking. But now that I've had a chance to process through them and challenge them, I've got these thoughts down here. And so which ones do you think are more rational in content? More maybe logical?
Definitely the bottom ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when we're looking at those, which ones do you think are going to help lower my anxiety?
Yeah, definitely the bottom ones.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so one of our goals is learning how to challenge these thoughts and be able to get to that point where, okay, well now I'm rationally thinking about it. Okay, I feel a little bit better now. My anxiety's a little bit less.
Yeah.
And so the last step to this process is creating what we call a rational response.
Okay.
So ultimately, when I go into this situation with my boss and my anxiety is already high, it's really unlikely that I'm going to remember word for word everything that we've said. Because I'm sure like when you're doing your presentations and you're really anxious, it's probably hard for you just to remember the content on your presentation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nonetheless, all of this extra stuff. And so what we want to do is create a mantra or like a short little phrase that we can just quickly remember to trigger our memory of this event.
Okay.
Okay? And so we're looking for something small, well, short, concise, and maybe even a little on the broad side, maybe one that can represent 2 of the 3 or maybe all of these points.
Okay.
Okay? So what are some ways that we can shorten these
Those
phrases?
I guess it's okay to ask for time off. It doesn't mean that I'm lazy.
Absolutely. So time off does not mean that I am a lazy person.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's really great. What's another one that we could come up with, maybe for like these 2 right here?
If he says no, we can talk about it. Like, him saying no doesn't mean that I will never get time off.
Absolutely, right. So no does not mean that I'll never get time off.
Yeah.
Maybe no just means that he's really busy right now and overwhelmed, and maybe I should have scheduled an appointment to go and talk to him so I could try again.
Yeah.
So those are perfect. That is exactly what we're looking for, because I am going to be much more likely to remember that than to remember all of this.
Yeah.
Right? That's great. So the next step, well, before we move on, do you have any questions about this process or?
It seems pretty clear now. Like it was more confusing when I read about it, but I feel like it makes more sense now.
Good.
Yeah.
Great, that's wonderful. So then I would like to take this situation and make it more tailored and personalized for you.
Okay.
So I'm just going to rip this off and flip the page over.
Okay.
And so be thinking of a situation, Lulu, like the last anxious situation you're in.
Yeah. Can we use the same one from the homework?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's break this down.
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess I was giving a presentation to the class.
Okay.
And
So what were some of those automatic thoughts that you were having?
so they must think I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
They can tell I'm anxious. And I pause too much.
Great. Okay. So they think I don't know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
They can tell I'm anxious and I pause too much.
Right.
So reflecting that back on those thinking errors,
Mm-hmm.
which ones can we identify?
So for the first one, mind reading. And this, I think that's pretty much it for that one.
Okay.
They can tell I'm anxious. I guess also mind reading. But maybe confusing feelings with facts too.
Okay.
Like, I feel anxious, but maybe I don't look as anxious as I feel.
Sure.
And then I pause too much. I guess that's like an unhelpful thought.
Okay. Great. So just looking through this, I'm already seeing two themes. So definitely some mind reading going on here, right? So
Yeah.
assuming what other people are thinking about me and my skills. We have some unhelpful thoughts with the pausing too much, and those unhelpful thoughts just distract from our overall goal and helping us get done what we need to do. And then mixing the facts with the feelings. Wonderful, and that just helps us to get a whole new perspective, right, on this situation. So instead of just thinking these kind of negative things about ourselves, we actually, if I go back and I look at it again, there might be another explanation.
Yeah.
And so then going back through, thinking about, okay, so what are some of those disputing questions that you can ask yourself in these moments to challenge the validity of these automatic thoughts?
I guess so for the first one, what evidence do I have that they think I don't know what I'm talking about? I guess I would say I don't really have any evidence for that. I mean, no one's ever told me that, or like, yeah. And then they can tell I'm anxious. Do I know for certain that they can tell I'm anxious?
Right, okay. And do you know for certain?
I don't. They told me before that, like, I was, shaking as I was presenting and stuff. So, like, I don't know for certain that they can tell I'm anxious, but they have commented that I was shaking as I was presenting.
Okay. So then what's a follow-up question that we could have? So I don't know for certain, but in the past they have commented. So what's another question that we can use to challenge this one?
So I guess, what does it mean that, they commented on how I guess it means that then I'm just not good enough, or I'm not stupid, or I'm stupid.
Okay. So this comment here is actually really helpful. It's definitely more of a automatic thought.
Okay.
Because again, if we look back, what kind of evidence we have, what kind of proof, if you were talking to a friend about this kind of stuff and they were like, hey, but they've commented on it before, would you look at your friend and say, well, that's because you're stupid? That's
No.
usually not good. Right.
Yeah.
So that's more so like an automatic thought that we're having.
Yeah.
So we can add that actually back up here.
Okay. So do I ask another question then for that one?
Well, do you feel like there's a question on there that could help challenge that thought?
I guess. Does shaking mean that I'm stupid?
Absolutely. And Lulu does that. Does shaking? Do you
No.
think shaking means you're stupid?
No.
So isn't it interesting how shaking means I'm stupid? And no. Isn't it interesting how we start to question these thoughts?
Yeah.
And then it just opens the door to more thoughts that we're having that maybe we didn't even realize were there.
Yeah.
Which is something, you know, as we continue to go and like start to do the exposures and stuff, that might pop up even more, these unfamiliar or just unnoticed thoughts.
Yeah.
And as they come up, we'll just repeat this process and we'll start challenging and we'll start asking ourselves, okay, what proof do I have?
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess this is something that we could do until we reach the level of thinking more rationally, maybe even.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And ultimately, this is something that we're going to do. You know, right now I'm writing it all down because this is our first time going through it.
Yeah.
But the ultimate goal here is for you to get so comfortable doing this that it is second nature. And you can just do these conversations on your own in your head.
Right.
In seconds. This time we're just going through it a little more carefully. That way, yeah, it's our first time.
Okay.
And so then
the next one.
the last one, I paused too much.
So I guess, does pausing too much really mean that I'm stupid?
Right. And does it?
No. I mean, like my professor pauses and she's a genius, so.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't even know the last time I went to a lecture or a presentation and the person didn't have to take pauses.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Uh-huh.
And so then the next step, so now that we've identified the thinking errors and we've challenged these automatic thoughts, what are some of the rational responses that you can create to pull from the next time you're in this situation?
So I guess looking nervous and pausing doesn't mean that I don't know what I'm talking about or that I'm stupid.
Right. So looking nervous and pausing does not mean that I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. And what's one that we can do maybe for this top one? They don't think I know what I'm talking about.
It's hard to know what people are thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as time goes on to Lulu, if you find that maybe you use these rational responses and they really didn't help you all that much in the moment, or you have a hard time remembering them, we can just revisit and we can figure out another. This is not a concrete, finalized list.
Okay.
We can always alter it and make it more attainable and appropriate for you.
Okay.
But ultimately, yeah, that was wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay. But so you can see how this process, it can be kind of time consuming at the very beginning. And of course, you know, when you're in these moments of anxiety, I don't expect for you to stop, leave the presentation and work on them. And then come back and be like, sorry guys, I had to take a break.
Yeah.
But I do have a sheet for you. It's going to serve as your homework for this upcoming week. And ideally, this sheet is just going to help you practice even more, getting better at this cognitive restructuring, okay? And so we can look over it together. That way, if you have any questions, since I'm right here, we can answer them.
Okay.
But this is something I want you to fill out the next time you're feeling anxious. So you'll identify the situation, and then just how we did here, what are some of those automatic thoughts that you are having? This is a list of those thinking errors, so you can easily identify, okay, so that one obviously is mind reading or something like that. Here you'll fill out the emotions that you're feeling as well. And then this back sheet is really important. So this sheet is going to serve as a dialogue for you. So this is your coping self. So this is you when you're feeling neutral and you're not anxious at all. And then you have your anxious self, and that's going to be you who's having those automatic thoughts and those thinking errors. And basically, just how you and I did right here, what would you say to yourself in those moments to help you not only challenge those thoughts, but create those rational responses? So Lulu to Lulu, how can I support myself?
Yeah, so I guess then this would be, the coping would be kind of when I ask myself those questions.
Right,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, so coping self, you could ask, all right, well, Lulu, what evidence do I have? Or, you know, if you were my friend, what would I tell you right now? And then anxious self would respond and say, oh gosh, well, I don't really have any evidence to support this automatic thought.
Yeah.
And you'll just write that down. If you run out of space, you know, just continue on down here.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Right, okay,
Kind of
so
like we did here today. So.
absolutely. This ultimately is just more practice for you, because eventually, hopefully, you know, you'll get to the point where you don't need the sheets anymore and you just know the steps in your head to work through.
Okay, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So take that, work on that for your homework, and then also go ahead and read through chapter 7. And that's going to lay the framework and foundation for what we're going to be doing next week. So to help you prepare and get comfortable with the ideas going on and the concepts, things like that. And then, yeah, that was all that I had for you. And do you have any questions or need any more clarification before we wrap up?
No, I think it all makes sense now. So yeah.
I'm so glad. And I'm so thankful for the effort you're putting into this. It makes the whole process more meaningful.
Yeah. Thanks. It's hard, but I feel like it'll be helpful.
I think so too. And I think already, like as we're going through, you've already, you know, started taking steps in the right direction. So.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
And see.
Okay.